Hey guys, in this video we're gonna break down how to play Recoleta. Now Recoleta is highly recommended to be played together with Melania, because Melania helps her out massively in multiple different ways, but one way in particular. And in order for us to figure out what that is and how this exactly works, let's take a quick look at Melania's Euphoria one more time. I already broke down Melania's Euphoria in much more detail, but right now we're just gonna take a look at what is so massive here when it comes to playing Melania together with Recoleta. You have to know first of all that Recoleta can accumulate 10 Moxy instead of just 5, and she always wants to do that because that will improve her damage output by a lot. But yeah, more on that in a little bit. So, since Recoleta has to accumulate 10 Moxy, she wants to have someone by her side that can help her accumulating this Moxy actually as fast as possible. And Melania does this better than any other character in the game currently. There are two reasons for here. The small reason is that after actively attacking with Melania, you apply 1 stack of Passion Drain to the target. Now, if you would attack that target with Recoleta after you attacked him with Melania, Recoleta would accumulate 1 additional Moxy. That is already really good. That is not really a must-have, because Recoleta also does this by herself, but having Melania do this with both of her incantation adds a whole bunch of consistency here, and it makes things even faster. Obviously, the big thing why Melania is kind of a must-have for Recoleta is the following. It's her Euphoria number 4. When entering battle, Moxy +5. So Melania starts the battle with her ultimate already ready. She already has 5 Moxy. And now comes the part which makes this incredibly good, because all allies' excess Moxy is temporarily stored. At the end of the round, this Moxy is recovered for allies with missing Moxy. Each character can store up to 5 Moxy. What that means is, since you start the battle off with 5 Moxy already accumulated for Melania, now if you use Melania's incantations, which you want to do to apply Passion Drain to the enemy target, then the Moxy that you would generate now is not lost, which it normally would be. It is now stored though, and at the end of the round, this stored Moxy goes to one of your allies by random. So there is a chance that if you use a incantation with Melania, or maybe even 2, right? That the Moxy that you accumulate and store by doing this, it can go to Recoleta. That makes it much faster. But even if this stored Moxy doesn't go to Recoleta, it's not that big of a deal, because then the Moxy goes to your other 2 allies instead, which also helps out massively, as whenever an ally uses an ultimate, Recoleta gains a Moxy for that and more. Now it's time to take a look at Recoleta and take a look at her insight. So yeah, she has Moxy +5. You can accumulate 10 Moxy instead of 5, right? We already covered that. And now comes the interesting part here, because after another ally casts an ultimate, Recoleta gains a Moxy, as I just said. And for each point of Moxy consumed by that ultimate, she gains stacks. It depends. If the ally uses a 1-target ultimate, which Melania does, by the way, Melania uses a 1-target ultimate, she gains a stack called monomythic narrative, and that can stack up to 20 times. And when Recoleta uses her ultimate, all of those stacks are consumed, and for each stack that is consumed, Recoleta's ultimate deals 50% additional reality damage to the main target. Now, if your ally would use a mass ultimate instead, then Recoleta gains a different stack called Ensemble Narrative. And what that would do, again, this can also stack up to 20 times. If Recoleta uses her ultimate, all of those stacks are consumed, and they would deal plus 25 reality damage, but to all targets. So the stack, the better stack here is this 50% reality damage to the main target. That's much better, right? Obviously, you literally deal double damage here. So you prefer allies together with Recoleta that use one target ultimates. It's all about Melania is already enough here. So yeah, many reasons as to why you would want to play Recoleta together with Melania. Let's look at her Insight 3 as well. When entering battle, you gain plus 3 Moxy and a stack of Preparation Recoleta. After casting an ultimate, for every 10 stacks of monomythic narrative and or ensemble narrative consumed, you gain 1 stack of Preparation Recoleta. And you can only generate 1 stack per ultimate unless you have her portrait number 1. So again, you want to accumulate as many stacks of this monomythic narrative as possible. How do you do that? You use a 1 target ultimate with one of your allies, which will be Melania. You want to have 10 stacks of this accumulated before you use your ultimate with Recoleta, so you deal the maximum amount of damage. How do you accomplish that? Very easy. And you also want to have 10 Moxy instead of 5 accumulated, because for each Moxy that is consumed by using her ultimate, you will deal additional damage. So you always want to have 10 stacks of monomythic narrative and 10 Moxy before you cast your ultimate. Now remember what Melania does. She accumulates this Moxy. So when you start the battle off, Melania already is at 5 Moxy with her ultimate ready. You don't want to use this ultimate right away though, because first of all, you want to accumulate Moxy with Melania and spread that Moxy through your allies. So you can't use your ultimate, because if you would use your ultimate on the first turn, you wouldn't accumulate additional Moxy for your allies. And you gain Preparation Recoleta with Recoleta. And this generates a precast incantation called Flood of Fiction. What this precast incantation does is make the ally with the highest Moxy consume all their current Moxy to cast an ultimate, then recover the consumed Moxy. Long story short, you will make an ally with the highest amount of Moxy accumulated cast the ultimate for free, which is always Melania, because she starts with 5 Moxy. So that would generate yourself 5 stacks of monomythic narrative, because for each Moxy consumed by an ally that casts an ultimate, you gain 1 of those stacks. Since you consume 5 Moxy, you gain 5 stacks of monomythic narrative. Now you would be ready. You have 5 stacks. Now you can use Melania's ultimate actively without this Preparation Recoleta precast incantation to generate another 5 stacks. There would be 10, that's what you need. And then you cast Recoleta's ultimate as well, as soon as you have accumulated 10 Moxy. So yeah, we will take a look at this in battle, but real quick. Melania starts the battle off with 5 Moxy. You don't want to use her ultimate. You want to use incantations with Melania, because she would accumulate Moxy and store this and generate it for her allies. So you want to use incantations with Melania without using her ultimate, and make sure that Recoleta gains 10 Moxy. As soon as Recoleta has 10 Moxy, you use Preparation Recoleta onto the Flood of Fiction precast incantation onto Melania, so she uses her ult for free. Then you actively cast the ultimate with Melania. That makes it so you used Melania's ultimate twice. That gives you 10 stacks of monomythic narrative. And then with 10 Moxy and 10 stacks of monomythic narrative, you cast Recoleta's ult. There you go. Now let's take a quick look at Recoleta's incantations. Incantation number 1 is a massive. It deals 120 reality damage to 2 enemies. But if there's only one target, you grant yourselves 5 stacks of monomythic narrative. Otherwise, if there is more than one target, you would grant yourselves 5 stacks of assemble narrative. So yeah, that doesn't really matter. It's all about these. You grant yourself 5 stacks. This is more effective if there's only one enemy. But even if there are more, you would still use it, and then yeah, you gain assemble narrative. It doesn't really matter. Just keep in mind that ranking this incantation up does absolutely nothing for you. And this is more effective when there's only one enemy on the field. Then her incantation number 2 is a debuff incantation. It's a 1 target attack. It deals 100 reality damage, and after attacking you inflict 2 stacks of passion drain on the target. So this is what you always want to use first. Either you use this debuff incantation on the enemy with Recoleta before you use her incantation number 1. That would then grant you additional Moxy. In case you wouldn't have this debuff incantation ready, you have to remember that you can apply this passion drain also by using an incantation with Melania. Now, the big quote-unquote trick here is that this incantation number 1 of Recoleta attacks 2 enemies. So let's say you have 2 or 3 enemies on the field, right? Then you would either use an incantation on one target with Melania and another incantation with Melania onto another enemy. And you can also, just in case, like you don't have 2 incantations ready with Melania, you can then instead use this debuff incantation with Recoleta to apply Passion Drain. Point is that you always want to apply Passion Drain with incantation number 2 or with Melania to all of the enemies that are on the field, so that you always accumulate 2 Moxy, 2 additional Moxy with this incantation number 1 from Recoleta, because this attacks 2 enemies, 2 different enemies. And if both of those 2 different enemies have Passion Drain on them, you gain the maximum amount of Moxy that you could possibly get, and that's what you always want to do, because you always want to have 10 Moxy ready with Recoleta. That's the whole point. And yeah, I just explained to you how you do this in the most efficient way and in the fastest way possible. Now we can take a quick look at Recoleta's ultimate. That's a mass attack. It deals 450 reality damage to all enemies and an additional 450% reality damage to the main target. You consume all the stacks that we just covered, and when casting this ultimate you consume all Moxy. For each additional Moxy consumed you gain ultimate might. You grant +1 Moxy to another ally with the lowest current Moxy, and if at least 5 additional Moxy are consumed, this bonus ultimate might granted to this attack is doubled. So the ultimate might granted to this attack is doubled, right? That's why you always want to cast this with 10 Moxy. Not with 6, not with 8, always with 10. Because then, and only then, is the ultimate might granted to this attack doubled. That's what you always want to do, okay? That's why it's so incredibly important to accumulate this Moxy as fast as possible, and you want to have help, and Melania is the best help you can possibly get in this game. But now that we know all about Melania and Recoleta and how to play them and what to do, let's take a look at how all of this looks in battle. Oh yeah, and one more thing, the psychube you want to play on Recoleta is of course her signature, is of course her signature psychube called the final roll. You obtain this by simply finishing the story chapter 9, right? It's needless. It's self-explanatory. So what it does is when the carrier attacks, for each point of Moxy held, the attack gains ultimate might plus 2.4%. If the carriers of the mineral afflatus for each point of Moxy consumed gain critical damage plus 2%, and this can stack up to 16 times. Incredibly important, increases her damage output by an absolute incredible amount. So right here they put me together with Melania, that's all that matters, and with Shamani and Medicine Pocket for some reason. That doesn't make any sense, but it is all about Recoleta and Melania anyway, so we don't have to worry about the other two. So again, 5 Moxy with Melania. Now every time I would use an incantation with Melania, I would apply Passion Drain and I would store the Moxy. So let's see how this looks. Use Melania. I attack one enemy with one incantation, another enemy with her other incantation, and the third one with Recoleta's debuff. And then I use Recoleta's attack incantation to attack 2 enemies, and that grants me as much Moxy as I could possibly gain. As we just figured out, right? Just explained everything. There we go. That's Passion Drain. That's already Passion Drain on everyone, but why not apply more? And boom. You see, there we go. You can see how much Moxy I already generated with Recoleta right here. We start at 3 Moxy and we have 5 Moxy accumulated by this Passion Drain through Melania and Recoleta. Now we only need 2 more, and yeah, you can see 2 of our enemies right here, they still have Passion Drain applied. So I would now apply it to the last enemy with either Melania. I don't have an incantation with Melania, so I have the debuff for Recoleta. Then I use her incantation number 1, and now I have the maximum amount of Moxy generated that I could possibly generate. So now it would be time to use my ultimate with Recoleta. But I have to check. I also need stacks, right? We talked about those stacks. You can see Assemble Narrative. I have 5 stacks of those. Now, I would already gain another 5 stacks of those by using my incantations. But it is now a good time to use the ultimate with Melania as well, and then use the ultimate with Recoleta. And that's what you always want to do. And that's all about it, right? It is not as complicated as it sounds when you read it or when someone explains to you. See, this is how it looks in battle. This is actually pretty simple. It's all about the Passion Drain, all about the Moxy generation, and all about the stacks that you accumulate. Like, by the way, the stacks that you need to accumulate, you accumulate them kind of passively by generating the Moxy you need, you know? Also, another note is that you can see, like, when I wouldn't use my ultimates with my other 2 characters, it would then guarantee me that the Moxy that they accumulate goes to Recoleta. That's also, like, very, very beneficial. You can maximize your damage with this even more, right? To, like, never use an ultimate with anyone other than with Recoleta. Unless you want to finish the battle, like I want to do right here, then yeah, just go ahead. But it's a very good strategy to never use an ultimate with anyone other than with Recoleta. Unless you have her precast incantation ready and you can make it so that an ally uses their ultimate for free. But really keeping their ultimates and never using them with your other 3 teammates is very, very beneficial. Because yeah, as I said, whenever they generate Moxy, you guarantee this Moxy to go to Recoleta. That's incredible. And yeah, that's all about it. That's how you play Recoleta. I showed you everything in excessive detail, so it should be crystal clear. If you have any questions about it, feel free to ask anything you would possibly want in the comment section down below. But that's it for the video, guys. Thank you very much for watching. If you like Reverse1999 content in general, please consider leaving a follow on my channel. I would really appreciate that. But until next time, take care of yourselves, have a great day, and we love this game.